Chris Sewall here, baseball card collector, investor, dealer in that order. Welcome everyone. It's time to take a look at the grading companies and see what they're up to. There have been some major changes since whenever, the last time I did one of these videos was, so let's see what's been going on. We'll discuss the 5 biggest companies: PSA, Beckett, SGC, CSG, and HGA. But instead of going, company to company like I usually do, this time I'll look at 5 different categories and sort of compare them within each category. I've sent in quite a few orders recently to PSA, SGC, and CSG, so I can speak to them from personal experience. I've used Beckett in the past, although not in the last couple of years, and I've yet to send an order into HGA, so I can't pull from personal experience there. All right, we'll start with a category that's basically just subjective, and that is the look and sort of quality of the slabs. The only major recent change to the look of the slabs is from CSG, who very recently went from the green label to a more blackish label. They have also removed subgrades as an option with their service, which we'll talk more about later. Whichever of these you prefer, this is all personal preference. And if you've polled everyone in the hobby, all 5 companies would receive votes as to which is their favorite look. I personally prefer simple, so PSA would probably be my favorite slab. I think vintage looks fantastic in an SGC holder, and I've mentioned I think the CSG slabs, at least the old ones, they look really nice in person and seem to be made from really quality material. They're just super clear and you can really sort of see the card well. Beckett is the thickest slab by a good margin, probably the most sturdy, although, that also means they take up the most space. And all 5 are more than sturdy enough to get the job done. The HGA look is really not my thing, but there is definitely a market for the slab, color matching the card. A lot of people really like that design. All right, a big one, cost and turnaround times. And this chart here shows the current minimum cost for grading at each company and the stated turnaround time that comes along with it. Each company offers faster and more expensive options. There are just way too many to analyze, but these here you see are the cheapest. The turnaround times here are all estimated door to door. So if, for example, you shipped SGC in order, you should expect it to be back in your possession about 30 days later. PSA is currently $100 per card. However, they do offer events every Tuesday and Thursday where if you're a PSA member, you can get into the queue system and perhaps get allocated some submissions at $50. I've entered the queue 4 times now and received some slots 2 of the 4 times. I once got 20 submissions and another time 25. Beckett is currently $100 per card, but that is without subgrades. With subgrades, it's $150, and if you plan to resell using Beckett, you probably should be getting subgrades. So you could almost say the minimum here is really $150. Amazing to me that subgrades cost an extra $50 per card. SGC remains at $30. They've been there for a while now, and they have one of the better, price/turnaround time combinations, I'd say, at the moment. CSG is the cheapest option with a service of $12 per card. A couple caveats come with that, though. First, you need at least 50 cards in the order to get that price, and also it comes with a very low declared value per card of $250, so you can't submit higher dollar cards at that level. Without those 2 caveats, the cheapest option with CSG is $20, which is still as low as anyone else. And HGA currently offers a $20 service that will take approximately 110 days door to door. All right, for the grading standards, let's start with the grading scales, which are all the same across all companies from 1 to 9, but each has their own scale for the top level grades. PSA continues to have the simplest scale at the top with no 9.5 and no grade for an Elite 10. Every other company has an Elite 10 score. CSG dropping subgrades was actually quite surprising to me, as now only Beckett and HGA offer subgrades, and Beckett only offers them on modern cards. If you were to ask 10 people who grades the strictest and most consistent, you might get 10 different answers. But as I mentioned, I've sent a number of orders to PSA, SGC, and CSG recently, so I'll speak mainly to them. SGC to me is the most consistent, particularly with vintage. They tend to grade more on eye appeal than sort of technical rules, which is one reason they don't use subgrades to calculate things. And some people like this and others do not. I personally do like it. PSA has gotten much stricter in the last year or 2 with their grading, just not giving out very many 10s and just overall sort of stricter across the board. Personally, I think their consistency is okay, not great. CSG has the strictest grading in my opinion, at least for modern cards, and they are particularly critical on surface issues, a light scratch or a smudge, these sort of things. Beckett, I feel, has always been pretty consistent, certainly not perfect, but pretty solid. I haven't really seen anything recently to suggest otherwise. Resale value is, of course, a big one, and PSA just continues to reign supreme here. They are the clear-cut leader for resale value in both vintage and modern. SGC has closed the gap quite a bit with vintage recently. Is actually, really close to PSA if you're talking about sort of standard vintage star cards that aren't super expensive. But PSA is just miles ahead of everyone for vintage in high dollar cards. No one else is close, and they're also miles ahead with vintage commons. The set registry plays a huge role in that. With modern, it's a little less clear-cut. There are examples all over the place that contradict whatever I would say here. But in general, I would say PSA is still safely number one. Beckett has really been falling lately, especially their slabs without subgrades. But Beckett is still kind of on PSA's level when it comes to higher dollar cards, particularly cards with an autograph, but sort of less so when you get to less valuable cards or when it doesn't include subgrades. SGC and CSG just really are not great here with modern. Resale values on their modern slabs, it just isn't there yet. Although I would say both are sort of showing signs of improving. I would actually put HGA ahead of both of them at the moment when it comes to resale value of modern cards, particularly ultra modern cards. I've mentioned it before in the past, but the biggest advantage that PSA has as the industry leader and what really makes it hard for other companies to catch them is the pop report and the set registry. Because they've just been around so long, the data and the opportunities they provide there are just far superior to the other companies. Beckett and SGC both have impressive and growing pop reports as well, but they're still pretty far behind PSA. And CSG and HGA also have pop reports, but they're brand new and the data is not really useful as of yet. SGC continues to get praise for being open to their customers and providing strong customer service. PSA has been pretty bad at this in the past, but I would say they sort of appear to be making strides towards improving there. Beckett definitely loses points with that. As I mentioned, CSG recently did a major overhaul to their slab design and changing their scale. Not sure how this will change or impact things just yet, but HGA recently had a major corporation come in and basically take over operations. So also don't really know the details, but they were definitely having some issues with fake slabs and over-promising AI grading type stuff. And I imagine the new change will be a positive for them, but I really don't know. All right, if we wanted to sort of rank them in each of the 5 categories, here is my personal take on what that would look like. With the look of the slabs, again, this one's subjective, so this is just one guy's random opinion, but I'd put PSA 1, SGC 2, CSG 3, Beckett 4, and HGA 5. If you pulled 10 different industry experts, you would probably get 10 different orders on this one. For the cost turnaround time combination, I think SGC is number 1. CSG number 2, HGA number 3, PSA 4, and Beckett is essentially off the map in last by a distant margin. Grading standards is a close one. I'll give SGC the number 1 spot. Beckett I'll put at number 2, PSA 3, CSG 4. But let me just say that there's really not a huge difference in my opinion between these 4. I would say all are solid but have their issues. I don't really have enough personal experience with HGA to really have an opinion. Resale-wise, we'll break it into vintage and modern. Resale of vintage is PSA 1, SGC 2, and then the other 3 are all a distant 3, 4, and 5 in whatever order. Resale of modern, I would put PSA number 1. Beckett still number 2, although they are dropping. And I'm going to give the edge to HGA for number 3, although that might be generous. SGC 4 and CSG 5. And with the miscellaneous stuff, PSA just has a big advantage here because of their history. SGC is very solid, and I would put them second. Beckett has a strong pop report, but very poor communication to the customer. I'm going to actually put them 4th behind CSG, and HGA definitely has some external issues as well, or internal issues, I guess, as well. But that's it for sort of the state of the grading companies. Let me know, your thoughts. These are just my opinions based on my experiences, but perhaps your experiences have been different, or you have different tastes or whatever. So if so, please leave a comment and let me know if you agree or disagree. I appreciate everyone watching, and we'll see you all again real soon. Thanks, everyone.